clear. But we're in the auditorium. Behind me are the doors that go through to the dressing rooms and the disabled toilet. And the only bit of light, the reason it's dark, because obviously we're going to talk about ghost stories, the only light we've got on at the moment is what's known as a ghost light. Now, a ghost light is a single light, usually on a stand, in the middle of the stage, which is on when nothing is taking place. There are two schools of thought. One is it's a health and safety issue. So if someone did have to come into the building while the lights are off, there's at least some illumination. They can at least make sure they don't fall off the edge of the stage. The other is connected with ghosts. And that the light is there to let the theatre ghosts know now it is around, and that they need to look after the building for us while we're shut, or to allow them to perform on the stage so they can see what they're doing. So, ghost light. I'll put a picture up later of our ghost light. So, ghost stories. It's not yet Halloween, but why not? And this lighting sort of suits the right atmosphere for ghost stories. Sorry it means you're seeing a lot of me, which isn't ideal, but I thought just staring at the ghost light was probably even worse in the school of things. Now, most theatres have ghosts. We have 3. We have a man and a woman and a child, but they're not a family. We know who the little girl is. We have an idea who the man might be, but we have no idea at all who the woman is. But we're not going to talk about the actual people this week. This week, we're just going to talk about the actual ghost stories. So, first up, the man. And the man has been seen in what's known as the dungeon, one of our rehearsal rooms. And he's known to walk through the walls. Many years ago, there was a play reading going on in the dungeon, and they're all sat round in a circle, which is the normal thing in play readings. And someone saw a man walk through one wall, cross the room, and go straight out through the opposite wall. Now, you assume you didn't sort of see that, it was just a trick of the light. However, this person looked round the circle and noticed someone else was staring at exactly the same spot of the wall where the man walked through. So later they had a little chat, coffee afterwards, and yes, they had both seen the exact same man walking through the exact same part of the wall. Yeah. The second ghost is that of a woman. Now, she moves around a bit. I didn't say gets around a bit, that would be a little bit rude. Now, sometimes she's seen on the balcony here in the auditorium, sometimes she's seen on the stage, and then sometimes her voice is heard in a different part of the building. Now, one of my predecessors who worked here, Lynn Morgan, who's still a member here, she used to work in the box office, and she would always say hello or good night to the lady whenever she came in or out of the auditorium, because she thought she looked after the building. You know, nothing scary or unpleasant has actually ever happened to anybody from one of our ghosts. Not so long ago, in fact, about 6 months ago, someone saw the woman on the balcony while they were doing some work on the stage. But she does occasionally appear during a show. Simon Young, who some of you may know, as a member of the theatre and part of the Album Project band, who perform here quite often, was doing a gig here. Not with the Album Project, this is many years before that. And after the gig in the Green Room bar, someone came up to him and said how much they'd enjoyed it, but they wanted to know what had gone wrong backstage. Because during the gig, they'd seen a woman come onto the stage from the wings, go up to Simon, whisper in his ear, and go off again. Now, of course, Simon knew nothing, and no one else in the audience had seen anything, but this person swore blind the woman walked onto stage, whispered in his ear. Now, I've never seen the woman, I've never seen the little girl, and I've never seen the man, but I have heard the woman. There is a part of the building where, if you are lucky or unlucky, depending on your state of mind, she will speak to you. Well, all she actually does is call you by your name. I was in this particular part of the building one morning and I heard my name being called and I assumed it was Box Office Mary, who was downstairs somewhere and trying to find out where I was. So I opened the door, called down, yeah, Mary, here. No response. Fine. So I go back in the room, start typing it, and again I hear my name called a second time. So again, open the door, call out for Mary. Nothing, because Mary was the only other person in the building. Back to work. Third time, my voice, my name again. Just my Christian name. So this is silly. So I go downstairs. Oh, Mary's not down there. Okay. So I go through the box office and there's Mary on the phone. So I wait for Mary to get off the phone and say, what did you want? And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, I heard you calling me. She went, no, I've been in the box office for the last 20 minutes. Now that was odd. And not long after that, I spoke to a few other people who said they've had exactly the same experience in the same part of the building and heard a woman's voice calling them by name when there was no one else around at all. Weird. Oddly enough, we occasionally do ghost hunts around the building overnight. And there's one part of the building that people never, ever like. And we run them quite scientifically, actually, so different groups never pass another in the building at the same time. So no one can say, oh, I felt that, or I saw that, or I heard that. There is one part of the building that every single person doesn't like or say feels very odd. I'm not telling you where it is, because you might want to come. And in fact, once we reopen, we're going to do a few of those, and we're going to do one on Halloween. Midnight to 3 a.m, you can spend the night in our haunted theatre trying to track down some of our ghosts. We'll tell you more about that nearer the time. The third ghost is a little girl, and the little girl is seen quite often. She's the most frequently seen of our ghosts. Sometimes she's seen on the front of the stage, towards the gentleman's toilet. So stage right, towards the front on the apron. And there have been occasions where people have seen her during a performance. And ushers can talk of several occasions where, on the way out, they say, thank you for coming, did you enjoy the show? And been told that they enjoyed the show very much, but they didn't understand the significance of the little girl who was sat on the front of the stage throughout the whole of the second half. That's happened quite a bit. There have also been occasions where she's seen in the entrance to Stage Manager's Corner, which is just round from me here. The last time that happened was during Jekyll and Hyde by the Cotswold Savoyards. And there's a guy operating the follow spot who didn't know the history of the building at all or any of the ghosts. And he was wearing earphones and a mic to talk to the stage manager and came through saying, Jill, will you tell whoever sat right by the curtains to move? Because if I can see them, the people in rows A and B can. Now, Jill, who was stage manager at the corner, looked at, there was no one there. I was behind her. I was crew for the show. There was no one there at all. We were all in black, so we couldn't be seen. So she goes back, what do you mean there's no one there? And he insisted that he could see what appeared to be a little girl sat 3 or 4 feet in front of me where I was in the wings. No one there as far as we could see. Now we know who she is, and we'll talk more about her next week. Lillian. She was 11. Unpleasant what happened to her. So those are our 3 ghosts, and we might talk about ghost hunts. Now, nothing unpleasant has happened to anybody, but there have been 7 deaths in this building. There's a possible 8th, but there's 7 definite deaths, and we'll talk about those next week. But nothing unpleasant has happened, and apart from the one part of the building people don't like, no one ever feels uncomfortable. I've been here at 3 o'clock in the morning on my own as I am now. Never feel safe, never feel unsafe. I feel perfectly fine. None of our ghosts do anything nasty. They look after the building for us. But some people don't like it. We had an occasion once where, before the refurbishment, a guy turned up with a big box delivery that needs to go in the auditorium and got to the auditorium doors and he literally froze, put the box down, said, not going in there, went. Didn't even wait for a signature. He was just really unhappy, got out of the building as soon as he could. When we did the refurbishment, part of the thing we had to do was change the ceiling. And you know how high up that is. And there were some guys up on a very tall scaffold platform. As they removed one of the panels from the ceiling, a hangman's noose fell out on them. And this guy, who was about 6 foot tall and about 4 foot wide, screamed like a woman. Absolutely terrified him. The weird thing is, we've got no idea how that noose got there, because you know exactly how high that ceiling is. So how on earth did someone get up there without a very, very, very tall scaffold tower or a very, 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 very tall pair of stepladders to put hangman's noose in our ceiling? Weirdly, a year after that, the news disappeared. We don't know where it's gone, who's taken it. One of those strange things. We had another chap in doing electrical testing about 5 years ago. And he was in the building, going around all the rooms, testing all the light fittings, equipment, plugs, the whole lot, pack testing. And he was in one particular part of the building. And after he finished, he came down to the auditorium to do some work on the stage. I brought him a cup of tea and he said, something really weird about that other room I was in. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, all the time I was doing the pack testing, I felt like someone was staring at me, like eyes in the back of my head, and I kept turning around, there's no one there, but just had this feeling I was being watched. I said, oh, okay. He said, but so I worked out what it was. He said, I could hear someone moving around in the room below, like moving furniture or something. And obviously I was hearing that and thinking there was someone here. And I said, which room? And he said, well, the room directly below. And I went, ah, right. My office. I went, oh, is it? Yeah. Different office than I have now, but. And I said, there's a problem with that. I'm the only one with a key, and for the last half an hour I've been down the back alley spraying the weeds. And it's the only time in my life I've ever seen someone literally turn white. Absolute ashen white within a second. And he was really uncomfortable for the rest of the day carrying on around the building. So, those are the ghost stories. I'm sure some of the members out there probably have got their own. And if they have, email me and we'll add them in. So say, next week, we'll talk more about the actual deaths and who the ghosts are. And that'll be this time next week at 12:30, because that seems to be a good time for everybody. People like 12:30 on a Tuesday. And if we keep to the same time, everyone knows where we are. So I hope everyone is staying safe and well. And we will see you next week. Oh, hang on. That's a little bit weird. What's going on here? Well, hang on. There's no one else in the building. What on earth? What is going on?